This is a Moto Guzzi V50 Monza. It was custom built by Revival Cycles out of Austin, Texas, for a gentleman who lives just down the road. This bike was his vision. It was going to be his forever bike. But he's never ridden it. To say I'm nervous about this would be kind of an understatement. Not only is this a classic custom-built bike, but it's worth a lot of money, and I know the owner really cares about it, and I don't want to mess it up. There's a bit of a learning curve when you ride a 40-year-old bike like this, and I've only got maybe 10 miles on it so far, and I'm getting used to it, but I'm not 100% there. The way this thing is rigged up, to start it, first of all, you gotta open the petcock, and then you take this little key fob, you put it over here, you hear a click, and then hopefully it starts. Ooh, let's try this again. I mean, seriously, how good does that sound? Holy smokes. All right. Let's go meet the owner and find out the story behind this amazing motorcycle and why he's never actually had a chance to ride it, even though it was delivered to him, I believe, in 2023. Being able to ride a bike like this is an absolute honor and a privilege. I gotta say, I've ridden a lot of bikes in my time as a YouTuber and before that, but I've never ridden something quite like this. This thing has more character than anything I've ever even seen. It's ridiculous how much fun this bike is. It sounds amazing. It actually handles pretty great for something that's almost as old as I am. And there's no doubt that it's absolutely gorgeous. If you watched any of my recent videos, you know I'm developing quite a taste for Moto Guzzi motorcycles. This bike isn't helping. I would like to own this bike. In fact, it's for sale. Eric over at Sabatino Moto here in Portland is selling this bike for the owner. It's listed on Sabatino's website. It's like, I don't know, $15,000. And I gotta be honest, if I had $15,000 kicking around right now, I would absolutely buy this thing. It is a rip-roaring riot. And, like I said, it's just stunningly gorgeous. I'll let the owner tell you all about the modifications that were done to this bike. One thing you might notice right off the bat if you're a Moto Guzzi aficionado, this isn't a stock V50 tank. This came off of some sort of Yamaha or something. I'll have to let the owner tell you all about that. I knew going into this, because this has been in the works for a few weeks now, that I was going to be nervous as hell when I got on this bike. I mean, I'm always a little bit nervous when I first get on a bike that's new to me. But this bike is, you know, there's a lot going on here. It's a classic. It's, you know, currently for sale for a lot of money. The owner has a lot of emotional investment in this motorcycle. And I've never ridden anything, you know, quite like this. It's different in just about every way. But at the same time, I don't know if it took me more than about 15 or 20 minutes to get reasonably comfortable with the bike. Starting it as a bit of a faff, you know, the kickstand, as soon as you put the bike upright, the kickstand kicks itself back, so you got to remember that or else you're going to dump the bike. The buttons don't make a whole lot of sense, like this is the left blinker, but this is the right blinker. Ask me how I know that, because this is the starter. That was a surprise. But anyway, I love this bike. I gotta tell you though, I'm super conflicted about this video. You know, on the one hand, I got to ride this absolutely gorgeous classic motorcycle, and on the other hand, I'm riding it over to the owners, and he's never ridden it. And it sort of breaks my heart. But I asked him beforehand, would you prefer that I ride the motorcycle to you, or would you rather me, you know, ride something else? And he said, no, I really want to see the bike in action. So that's why I'm riding it over today. All right, we're just about here. Hi. How are you?
Umesh.
I'm Dan. Nice to meet you.
Meet you. Yeah, hi, my name is Umesh Chikopaker, and this is my 1981 Moto Guzzi V50 Monza. So I got the itch to ride pretty early in life. My parents used to take me and my sister to India on trips during the summer. So I remember one of those trips when I was in my teens, my uncle giving me a moped to ride around all summer. After I rode around the big city for probably 3 months, I really had that itch to ride again. But I had to wait until I was about 19 or 20 years old when I first moved to Phoenix, Arizona. That's when I got my first bike. I think it was like a 1982 3 Yamaha XS 650. And I probably had that bike for 2-3 years, and it was a really easy bike to ride, so I got pretty good at riding that one. And then after that one, I think I picked up a 70s Norton Commando, and I rode that one for probably, I guess, 4 or 5 years before I got the itch to ride something else. And that's when I picked up my first Moto Guzzi. It was something in the 80s, but it was a big old police bike, or former police bike. And I had that bike for quite a few years before I decided I wanted to build my own bike, and I wanted to build something from what I had learned from each of the bikes I had ridden previously. So after I picked up this Moto Guzzi, I wanted to apply everything that I had learned from all of my previous bikes into this one. I wanted it to be the last bike I had. So from the first Yamaha that I bought, I knew there was a certain comfort level to the setup of that seat that I was going to use on my next bike. From the Norton Commando, I knew there was something about that simple, clean lined setup of that bike that I wanted to incorporate into my next one. And then finally, there was something about that Moto Guzzi that I couldn't get out of my head. That transverse V-twin, I knew that's what I was going to base my next bike on. And then I decided I wanted to have super clean lines based on my design style. And I found the RD tank to be the perfect setup and the perfect lines with the Moto Guzzi engine. So I found 2 of these tanks so I could set the bike up with a full tank up front, and then I cut the back off so I could have the back be the cowl of that engine.
Brilliant. And
the lines would go perfectly through the front to the back.
that's amazing. Was that your idea, or did you?
That was absolutely my idea.
That's fantastic.
And so, as you can see, these lines perfectly match these lines all the way in the back.
Amazing.
And then I have a setup for the seat that, because of my size, it allows me to have a nice, clean, simple way to get on and off the bike, feel comfortable on it, and just look at that engine.
Amazing.
Yeah. I probably spent about 6 months designing the bike and finding the parts to use for it. And then I think it took about another 6 months to actually get the bike built. I won't say that I'm a bike builder. I'm more of a designer.
Yeah.
So I had the bike built elsewhere.
So you got the parts and you shipped it to Revival Cycles in Austin?
That's right.
And then what happened then? So you ship the parts off, and what happens?
And then we started working together to get the bike built the way I wanted it to be built. I've always enjoyed or liked this particular color scheme of a dark gray, tan leather type of color scheme. So I knew that was going to be part of it. As I described the lines on this bike, I knew that was going to be part of it. And I knew as I got older, I wanted something a little bit simpler and smaller. So that was another big part of why I wanted to find this particular bike.
So the process goes on. I'm sure you spent a ton of money and you got the bike and it's absolutely gorgeous. What happened when it was delivered?
Yeah, so once I had the bike delivered, I was probably in the very early stages of my brain injury. And at the start of my brain injury, I didn't know what was actually going on. So at some point in March of 2023, I had my first round of seizures, and I was taken to the hospital. And I spent quite a bit of time in the hospital recovering from what they called a brain inflammation. But that was just the early stages of it. And what we later found out was that I had what's called autoimmune limbic encephalitis. I had damaged a part of my brain that impacted my memory, it impacted my cognitive capabilities, and it just impacted quite a few of my relationships in life. That impacted my family, and it became a big challenge for all of us.
Yeah.
And I realized quite soon that given my potential for seizures, I wouldn't be able to ride again. I wouldn't be able to drive a car again. So it was time to move on from this bike. It was difficult for me to do so, so I kept it in my garage so I could look at it, probably for a year. That's when I found Eric at Sabatino Moto, and Eric was kind enough to let me put this bike on his shop floor so it would get more views so that I could potentially sell it.
Thanks, Unmesh. I appreciate you. I was really conflicted about this video and meeting Unmesh and riding his motorcycle to his house. There's a lot of emotions wrapped up in all of that. And so I wasn't exactly quite sure how that was going to go. And it couldn't have gone better. Unmesh is a super nice guy, and sure, he's got some feelings around the motorcycle, but, you know, at the end of the day, he's got bigger things to worry about. And maybe there's a point there, you know. Sometimes we have to put stuff into perspective. It's funny, now that I've, stopped and started on this bike a dozen times or so, and I've got, maybe an hour and a half total riding time on it. This bike feels like second nature. It feels like it was born under my ass. Wait, that doesn't make any sense, but you know what I mean. I feel pretty comfortable and natural on this bike. I would like to own it. I know, shocking, right? But this is a really special bike, and I was telling Unmesh after we talked that I just want to see someone buy this bike and do two things with it. I want them to show it at motorcycle shows and stuff like that because it's so goddamn beautiful. But more importantly, I want them to ride it. I want them to ride the hell out of this bike because this bike was built specifically to be ridden. This was going to be Unmesh's bike to ride for the rest of his life. He wasn't going to baby it per se. He wasn't going to just store it in a showroom or something like that. This bike was built to ride. At the same time, it needs to be seen. It needs to be in shows. I don't even know how to wrap this video up right now, if I'm being completely honest. Here I am flying down the highway on this beautiful V50 Monza that Unmesh had custom built for his very specific design. The sun is out. It's the most beautiful day that we've seen in months here in Portland. And, you know, it's important to step back and get a little perspective sometimes. I'm riding this guy's dream bike. He can't ride anymore. And yet, there he is, smiling when he saw his bike. I wasn't sure if he was going to smile or cry or hit me. I don't know. But my God, he couldn't have been nicer. I could tell that there's some emotions there because, of course, there are. But a more gentle, sweet human being, you'd have a hard time finding. I don't know when my riding days are going to be over. You know, I'm hoping to get another 20, 30 years out of it. But, as we saw today, there's no guarantee. While I have at least one beautiful riding day ahead of me, though, I'm going to go enjoy it on this amazing motorcycle. If you're interested in buying this bike, I'll leave a link down in the description. But please don't, save it for me. I'm just kidding. Go down, click that link, and you can find out all about it, and I'll catch you on the next one.